Forgot my 1 minute warning, so we're gonna do a 1 minute warning now. Wait, 30 seconds. Well, let's make up for it tonight. How's that, right?
It was kind of the hint I was playing. Redeem yourself.
I'll try. I will try. All right, we'll get ourselves started. I'm Mayor Matt Girding. Call our September 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting for the City of Somersworth to order. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Pepin?
Yep.
Vincent?
Here.
Gibson?
Here.
Parity Catanzaro? Here. Michaud?
Here.
Witham?
Here.
Goodwin?
Here.
Cameron? Here. Barry?
Excused. Councilor Pepin will now lead the council in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a recognition of our Indigenous people, our Native Ancestral Americans. This meeting takes place on Indochino, which is the unceded traditional ancestral homeland of the Abenaki, Pennacook, and Wabanaki peoples past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land, waterways, living beings, and the Alnabek, the people who have stewarded Indochina throughout the generations. Item 4 are public hearings. We have 2 scheduled for this evening. First, I'll open the public hearing for ordinance 1-26, which is to amend Chapter 19, Zoning Ordinance Section 3, Establishment of Zoning Districts, which, if approved, will allow for the expertise of the Planning Department to be used for the determination of lots with no dimension on the map, as well as allow owners in the Commercial Industrial District to use either zone type within 100 feet of the line. Is there anyone who wishes to speak towards ordinance 1-26? Thank you. If you could state your name and ward in which you live.
Richard Brooks, 18 Linden Street, Ward 1. This proposal is a long time coming. I think we recognize there's a lot of things in zoning that should change, and I noticed that this specifically looks to like a lot of properties are only 100, 150, maybe 200 feet from the road, but the properties might be 500 feet deep, and they usually seem to be along the corridor of High Street or 108 where this happens, and whereas those are really a corridor, very unique. You know, I know we're looking at a lot of different zoning potential in the city. Something to really think about is start zoning it based on the road frontage and just allow that entire property to basically be zoned as one particular zoning. And I think would make everybody's life a lot easier, simpler, and wouldn't adversely affect zoning anyway, in my opinion. But just wanted to throw that out there. As you know, I've been on several boards, so I've seen a lot of these different variances come through the zoning board and so on. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak towards ordinance 1-26 this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 1-26. Next up, I will open the public hearing on ordinance 2-26, which is to amend Chapter 19 zoning ordinance to add new section 34, home-based childcare, and a revised table for A3 accessory uses, section 25 definitions, and section 8 home occupation, which, if approved, will allow all types of home-based care, family care, and group family care to be allowed as an accessory to the primary residential in accordance with the newly passed state RSAs, RSAs 672 1VA and RSA 674 16VI, which serve to increase child care opportunities in the state. Is there anyone who wishes to speak towards ordinance 2-26 this evening? All right. Anyone for 2-26? All right, I will close the public hearing on ordinance 2-26. Thank you. Next up, we have item 5, which is comments by visitors. The Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rule 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speaker shall not enter into debate with any persons, the mayor, council members, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Anyone who wishes to speak? All right. That'll close out that. Then we'll move on to item 6, which is the approval of the consent calendar. Chair will obtain a motion to approve the consent calendar, which includes the minutes of the council meeting held on August 11th, 2025, and the resignation of zoning board member Keith Perkins effective September 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion? Councilor Pepin? Thank you. Councilor Pepin moves the consent calendar be accepted as presented, seconded by Councilor Gibson. Thank you. The question for the council is on the adoption of the consent calendar. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll state by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, ayes appear to have it. Ayes have it. Consent calendar is adopted. Thank you. Brings us to item 7, which is comments by city councilors. Are there any comments this evening by councilors? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 8, which is communications. We have none. 9 is presentations. We have none. Brings us to item 10, which is the mayor's report. I first want to say thank you to the assistant mayor for covering my August meeting while I was on vacation, so thank you very much. I also have to say it was a really, really nice surprise to return home from vacation to see 2 huge projects completed, both of which are near and dear to my heart for various reasons. So I really want to say thank you to the Public Works Department for making those projects possible. It was great to see. It was really great to drive back into the city of Somersworth after a long flight and see the High Street project completed, the sidewalks done, the street repaved. I feel like that specific project was done to such a very high standard. I was very impressed with the quality of work. Really, I think serves as a really proper gateway to our downtown, and it just helps to beautify the city. So I just want to say thank you for that. I was also very, very excited to see 5 new historic markers installed. So if you haven't had a chance to check those out, highly recommend you make a trip around the city to see those. Very well crafted. Each tells their own bit of interesting history about our great city. And so you can find the markers at the following locations if you haven't already. There's a marker providing a bit of history on the murder of the century at 45 Market Street in our downtown. There's one that tells you about Great Falls Manufacturing Company, which is located on Main Street across from the library. Another essentially telling about the name that we have as a city, Somersworth, which can be found actually here at City Hall, outside on Government Way. There's one up at the Noble Pines Park talking about the park. And then lastly, a marker outside the Somersworth Museum, which is explaining the accomplishments of our very own Fred Herbert Brown. So again, huge thank you to Public Works for putting those up and installing them. And again, a really great, important thank you to Jenny Holmes for researching and writing the various descriptions that we found or have within those markers. They really came out very nice. So thank you to everyone. I also want to say happy first day of school throughout the city. Again, I had a great first day today. I mean, you all know I'm a teacher. But again, happy first day of school to all the students, all the other staff members, the parents out there. I hope everyone had a great day. It's worth noting that as we return back to school, it means it's time for all that paperwork that all the parents have to fill out. Please, just a reminder to folks, do not forget to file the free and reduced meals paperwork. Even if you're not sure whether you qualify or not, it's worth filling it out. This is one of those pieces of paperwork that's often forgotten, and actually, as I think many of the city councilors probably know, ends up hurting us when we come time to do our budget, because the state uses those numbers to determine how much adequacy funds we get in various different ways and different areas. So whether you think you qualify or not, it's worth filling it out. Your child may qualify, whether it be reduced price meals or free meals. I highly recommend it. My child qualifies, which is just throwing it out there. We use it every day. He gets free lunch every day. It's awesome. And so again, if you get free lunch, it's free. If you get reduced price lunch, it's 40 cents for lunch and free breakfast, which is pretty great. Completing the application literally took me 2 minutes when I did it, but probably won't take you more than 10. And again, can be done by going to, where's my website? I had it right here. I think it's, one thing I wanted to tell everybody and I can't find it on my paper. It's gone, it's gone. I'll look it up. I'll tell you before the meeting's over. I'm sorry, everybody. It literally is gone on my paper. It's definitely on the SAU 56 website. So if you go to SAU56.org, they have a link to the actual website that I wish I could tell you and remember. But if you go to SAU 56, it's there. You click additional resources. There's a tab on the side. Then select family resources and links, and then select food services. It's all in there, all the info you need. If you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to our SAU staff. Tosha Devaney is the one to reach out to. Her number is 603-692-4450. She can help you as well. But that concludes my mayor's report. Next on the agenda is reports of standing committees. First up, we have the Finance Committee, which is Councilor Witham.
No report.
Thank you. Next is Government Operations Committee, Councilor Michu.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is Economic Development Committee, Councilor Goodwin.
Yes, thank you. Economic Development met last week, I believe last Wednesday, and we had two agenda items. One was the application of, I believe, 21 Green Street, looking for 79E Chapter 31 relief for a proposed apartment development project at the corner of Fayette and Green. The committee recommended to the council that that relief be granted as presented, which was, I believe, for 7 years, so 5 years for meeting sort of the basic public good of the redevelopment project, and then an additional 2 years for providing market rate housing in the downtown. The second agenda item was Ordinance 2525, which is to amend Chapter 19 zoning ordinance, the historic district ordinance that would, what was proposed and what the Economic Development Committee reviewed was whether or not, the proposed change was whether or not new development should be required to get a certificate of appropriateness from the HDC, or if it would be better to essentially have the HDC act as an advisory, non-binding capacity for new construction in the historic district. After a pretty extensive debate, we determined that by and large, we did not agree with the proposed changes. The committee understands that there's another committee, the Historic District Advisory Committee, that is sort of working to assess some of the challenges that the historic district has faced in terms of coordination and sort of consistency and sort of, I would describe it as growing pains, essentially, now that there's more interest in development in the downtown and learning how the HDC fits into that process. We also felt that in general it was kind of messy, basically, in that it wasn't removing a step for a developer, and it was creating uncertainty. It's like, okay, we're going here for advisory, but it's not binding, and then you're putting the planning board in a weird position. It's like, okay, well, it's not like the decision of the HDC is not binding. So it's just, it felt not well coordinated, and we thought that it would probably be best to wait until there was a more comprehensive assessment of the historic district to start making zoning changes. There was one small provision of the recommended, there were three or four recommended sort of paragraph changes or line item changes, and the committee did recommend keeping one of them, which was essentially just a housekeeping item. So I believe that will come before council with the recommendation from economic development that we pick up that one housekeeping edit and then reject the other changes. And that was it.
Thank you. I did find the website. I apologize for my delay in that. For free and reduced meals, it's mymealstime.com. Glad I found it. All right. Next is Public Safety Committee, Councilor Pepin.
I have nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. Next is Public Works and the Environment Committee, Councilor Witham.
No report tonight, but the committee is meeting tomorrow, 5 p.m. here in council chambers.
Perfect, thank you. And lastly, Recreation Committee, Councilor Cameron. No report. All right, thank you very much. Brings us to item 12, which is reports of special committees. Are there any reports of special committees this evening? Yes, Councilor Vincent.
Thank you, Ron. We had a Traffic Safety Committee meeting on August 19th at 3 p.m. We had a few items on the agenda, and bear with me, it's a little bit lengthy. The first item was the crosswalk safety on Stackpole and High Street. The crosswalk was in question because it spans 5 lanes, and drivers turning right are not always noticing pedestrians. What it came down to is the committee decided that to emphasize that the issue appears to be related to driver behavior, and that they're going to address it through enforcement. The next item that came up was right turn on red at Walton's Way and High Street. This was brought to our attention. However, there's been no accidents at the intersection. Once again, what's happening is when people are coming out of Walton's Way to make a right turn, sometimes instead of making the right turn, it's a little sharp there, and staying in their lane, they're crossing into the next lane. And so there's been no accidents, and we've gone back 2 years now with no accidents. Not saying that there wouldn't be one. But the lane, what the suggestion from the committee was to make better lane markings. There's not really good lane markings there saying, stay in this lane. So the committee decided to look into that avenue. The next item up for the agenda was crosswalk at Route 108 near Tri-City Dodge. Dottie Bickford was requesting the crosswalk between the 2 Tri-City Dodge. So you know that Tri-City Dodge built a new building across the street. And they planned on getting rid of one of the buildings, but hindsight now, they've decided to keep the building as a used car area or their division. And so what they're having is employees and sometimes customers having to cross Route 108. The state was notified, and Dottie wants a new crosswalk to go across. However, that's a very costly thing, and it takes state approval. But they were willing to actually flip the burden, the money for the crosswalk and the maintenance of it. What was suggested is, and I believe the city manager is bringing this up tonight, that we look into this and have them actually. We're going to discuss that tonight. The recommendation was to, like I said, discuss that this evening. The next item that was up on the agenda was the lights at Main Street and Market Street. They wanted a light at Main Street and Market Street. So, we've made the Main Street where it comes out to Market a one-way. And now because of the Berwick light being so long, and we've had years of this Berwick light issues, it's hard for some of the people to turn out of Main Street to get onto Market Street. But the committee decided to take no action because it seems like after Officer Duval went out and looked, it seems like people are pretty courteous. So they've been letting people out. So no action was also taken on that. The next item that was up was four-way. They wanted to look into a four-way intersection at Constitutional Way and Washington Street. Now, I have some history on this. The reason why that hasn't been a four-way stop is because what happens is in the winter, when you come up Washington Street, what happens if the cars stop and there's a line of traffic there, they can't gain traction to continue. So there's been some concern that it's not a four-way and there may be an accident there. So the suggestion by the committee was to put up, let me find it here, cross traffic does not stop signs. So Mike Pravinsky was looking into the cost of that, so those can be put up on all the at the stop signs, so they understand that they don't all stop. Okay, next item was street visibility on Mount Auburn Street and Main Street. Jenny Holmes reported that vehicles parking at the end of Mount Auburn Street were obstructing visibility for drivers turning onto Main Street. And what was happening is there's supposed to be a 25-foot no parking to the corner. And that hasn't, I don't know if it's been happening or not, but there's going to be more enforcement for that, to keep an eye on that. The next item was no parking signs on, and I apologize, we haven't had a traffic safety committee meeting for several months, so that's why this report's so long. No parking signs on Franklin Street between Silver and Green. And that's another issue. So what was happening is, a while back, we had taken down the red light, but what has happened is we didn't have the proper, or I don't know if enforcement was going to happen for the 25 feet there also. And they have parking on both sides of the street there. And it's causing congestion also, not only for that, but for fire apparatus to be able to turn sometimes and get around that area. So what they're going to do is they're going to do enforcement on that also, and possibly construct some signs at that location. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you very much.
Question?
Sure, go for it.
I'll be honest, I don't know off the top of my head. Are there painted markings on those roads to indicate, I'm probably saying this wrong, would it be easier to just paint like you do see on some city streets, the hash mark yellow, to keep people from parking in those areas?
That might be a great idea, and I can bring that forward to Officer Duval. I appreciate that. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure on that. My recollection says no on some of them, but I could be wrong.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Councilor Goodwin, then Councilor Withers.
I did actually. On the Washington Street intersection with Constitutional Way, I've long thought that should be a four-way intersection, four-way stop. And I guess I find the comment that, essentially you need momentum to get up the hill in winter interesting, because I think there's a lot of other precedents, including the top of Washington Street where there's a light that you're on a hill in winter. And there's a bunch of the conditions where it's like there's a stop sign or a light and you're on a slope, and we're relying on Public Works to keep the roads clear and salted in order for people to, navigate the city safely regardless of, of slope. I just don't think that's a great reason not to do that. My inclination, not that I'm on this committee, but my inclination is that slowing traffic down in the downtown for pedestrian safety and for safer, turning is a good thing, and I would revisit that conversation.
If I could just reply. So I remember years ago where they wanted to make that a four-way, and in front of the Legion, that is quite an incline right there. It's the same reason why on the hills you don't see stop signs when you get to the top, because there's stopping from the other direction. You don't see those stop signs because of the fact is you don't want to lose your momentum going up to have to be able to slide back down. It doesn't take much, and I know our Public Works does a great job salting and sanding, but I think that was a problem in the past.
Thank you. Councilor Witham?
Yeah, specific to the notion of enforcement with some of these no parking things, I have no belief that that will occur. With all due respect to the police chief and our parking enforcement officer, it's not going to happen when the parking enforcement officer is on for the, like 2.5 hours a week that he works. So I think we need to revisit signage or pavement markings or both. Specific to the issue of Franklin Street between Silver and Green, you could drive by any day there. There's multiple cars parked illegally there. Never seen a ticket on any of them. I'll drive by tomorrow if I get a chance. But there's no sign. So there's Green Street, a short segment, there's an alley. So I would think that the alley is a driveway, is 20. There should be no parking between Green and Silver Street. There's just no logical way that you can park a car in there and not be in violation. So I don't know why we have signs on every other corner of that intersection except there. I don't know why it can't be taken care of, because enforcement, I don't buy it.
You may.
If I may, thank you. You know, I certainly don't want to talk for the police chief. I just know that, and it's a sad state here that, you know, that item is probably at the bottom of the list of the critical parts of things that the police department do. And, you know, there's other more important things. Not that parking is not important, because it's important to some people, I get it. But there's you know, at times we're short and we don't have the manpower. We have a part-time parking enforcement guy. It's tough to do it all the way around. And basically people can maneuver around now that. And I think the police department does a great job. I just think sometimes the priorities are just a little higher than parking, even though parking is still important.
Thank you. Councilor Cameron, you're recognized next for questions.
I would just like to offer a comment about the four-way at Constitution and Washington there. I was coming to City Hall one day, because I come through that way, as I live off Silver Street, and I almost got sideswiped by a guy coming toward Green Street, and I was going straight across. He wasn't paying attention and almost hit me. And he came very close, because I came into City Hall all shooken up because I almost got hit. And as far as the Franklin Silver Street goes, I live there. And when I go to work, I go down Franklin. It is very difficult with cars on both sides. If I'm going one way and I have somebody coming this way, you have very little space with cars parked on both sides. And then when you're turning, the sun is coming up over here, blaring your eyes. You can hardly see. So there is a hazard over there. And I can see where emergency apparatus would have a really hard time getting through there. That's all my comments for that. Thank
I
you.
just want to say, well, it hasn't fallen on deaf ears.
True. All right, other questions before I form a parking and driving subcommittee? Okay. All right, moving on. Other reports of special committees this evening. Yes, Councilor Parity Catanzaro.
Yes, the Somersworth School Board had a meeting last Tuesday, a week ago, and I just wanted to flag a couple of items of note. One, folks may be aware there was a state law passed around cell phones in school. I believe I saw an article that stated it wasn't that big of a change because we had already had a similar policy, but I think this policy is a little bit more broad. It's first bell to last bell, no cell phones or personal devices, with, you know, a few exceptions if people really need it for medical or other reasons. So that's new this year. The superintendent gave an update on the lawsuit. If you remember, back in April, we all voted to support the Somersworth School District in a lawsuit challenging some really vaguely written challenges that might prohibit some federal funding coming down. The superintendent just said that that's going well. He wanted to remind people that there's no cost to the city, there's no cost to taxpayers. The ACLU is covering that full cost. There's no staff time being spent on it. He said a little bit of his own time, but outside of school hours. So we just wanted to assure people there wasn't city resources going towards that. And then finally, the school board voted in favor of the consideration of the net metering opportunity. So we have the solar array. The city had, I think this might have been during my time off of the council, the city had intended to purchase all of the electricity, all of the energy coming off of the solar array, but we don't need that much essentially. And so the school board voted in favor of taking that additional energy, which just gives the school a discount on energy for that portion of their bill. So that is a positive thing. And that's all the updates I had.
Great, thank you so much. Any other special committees? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to the city manager to deliver his manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, with this public hearing on 2 ordinances this evening, there's also an item to address, which I believe you will, that is lay on the table. As for the resolutions that are up for a vote this evening, there is the second reading of the authorization of the city manager to contract with Allegiance Fire and Rescue for the purchase of Pierce Enforcer 100-foot rear mount platform aerial apparatus for the fire department. This has been through the Public Safety and Finance Committees. I have referenced in my city manager report the various materials those committees have relied on in order to make the recommendations that have gotten us to this point. Again, the action requested for this evening is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase. What we aren't voting on tonight is the exact manner of how to finance the purchase of some $2.3 million. It is assumed and projected that we will use a bond and issue a bond. But as you know from previous discussions, there is a long lead time for the delivery of this vehicle. So now is not the time that we would issue a bond and commit ourselves to those costs. So as I state in my memo, I'll be returning to you in time for that borrowing to take place in order that we might make the purchase in accordance with the contract terms that we have seen drafted related to purchasing it in year 2 as opposed to at year 3. And that's strategic to take advantage of prepayment benefits. Also, many counselors, recognizing the rather uncomfortable nature of uncomfortable position that municipalities are in when it comes to financing these large fire department vehicle purchases these days, with the lead times and the nature of macroeconomic conditions, there is some creativity brought to how we might manage that best going forward because we have time. And you have seen in my memo options for setting aside fund balance in order to make a cash contribution towards the purchase price when that does come 2 years from now. It's not a policy decision being made tonight, but it is an option of the council to formally designate funds in order to move forward with the purchase and borrow less money when the time comes in 2028 or so. The analysis also includes impact on the typical home of some $400,000. The bond payment on $2.3 million for 20 years at a 4.5% interest rate is $176,000 annually, or about 9 cents on the rate, or $36 a year. That's with no cash contribution in 2 years towards the $2.3 million. If, for example, the city decided to make a contribution of $750,000 in 2 years in order to minimize the amount of borrowing needed, we would borrow $1.5 million, and at 20 years and 4.5%, that would be $119,000, about a $50,000 difference, $56,000 difference. That would be 6 cents on the rate, or about $24 for that $400,000 assessed property. So again, so there's a sample motion included in your packet to adopt Resolution 826 to authorize the city manager contract with Allegiance Fire and Rescue for the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer 100-foot rear mount platform aerial apparatus for the fire department for $2.3,001,005. The next item is related to the contract with Wright Pierce Engineers. I gave a background of where we have been in this project for the water treatment plant, and this has been funded through your budget this year in the this water budget. Again, that is just authorization to contract with Wright Pierce. Other items requesting action this evening are to set polling hours for the number 4 2024 municipal election. And to the extent there's any conversation on that, Mr. Mayor, I'll defer to the city clerk. There's also this request from Tri-City CDJR 192 Route 108 for support of a mid-block crossing across Route 108. Councilor Vincent referred to this item in his remarks for the Traffic and Safety Committee. Believe my comment in the city manager report is pretty straightforward. In short, the sample motion is to authorize me to enter into a memorandum of understanding addressing various conditions, which I'll review very briefly, which the city would under which the city would file an application to the state of New Hampshire for a mid-block crossing and associated infrastructure at 192 Route 108, and to authorize the city manager to submit such an application to DOT. In short, this state roadway, there is a process for requesting crosswalks or infrastructure of this sort to be created. The state of New Hampshire will only accept requests for these from municipalities. We are being asked by the private property owner to support an application for this crosswalk. Given the nature of the drivers behind this request, frankly being related to the business operations of the entity that just was described, I do not see a reason for the city council to take on the onus or the burden of getting a design together and the engineering, making the application, or moving forward with construction. However, if those responsibilities would be accepted by the project proponent, Tri-City CDGAR, I think it is reasonable that the City Council would agree to approve of the application. And then it would be up to me to move on from tonight with your authorization to work with this party on an agreement that ensures these commitments would be followed up on and prior to submitting an application. And there's some work left to do here related to liability of the maintenance of the equipment and other things that need to be done related to amending site plans that may need to be done in order to accommodate the crosswalks the crosswalk that is desired. This could be, because of the speed of Route 108, this is not a small project, and the proponents are aware of that. It's not an inexpensive project, and the proponents are aware of that. The speed of the property, speed of the roadway may require some more robust infrastructure than just a crosswalk. It might include flashing beacons. It might include a pedestrian refuge. All those things add costs. I think the last thing to say about this is, as you know, there is a Complete Streets project initiative of the state of New Hampshire to move forward with the Route 108 into the future. The nature of this being a state approval, we assume that they will ensure that a near-term investment of this sort matches with their other program. That burden falls to the state, not to us. So I look forward to answering any questions on that as you may have later. I listed also several informational items for you this evening. I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I think it's notable that the fire station soil pile has been covered in accordance with the requests from NHDES and the EPA. There's a note in here related to the solar array project status. Most all the work is done on the site there. The next step is for Eversource to install critical needed infrastructure to operationalize the installation. That is, I've been warned by Amoresco, a timeline that only Eversource controls. And while they are hoping that it is right in line with the completion of their physical work on the site, there's no guarantee of that. We are working to try to take steps where they're low-hanging, especially with regard to communication. I met last week with Councilor Perry DiCantazzaro, who chairs the special committee related to communication and outreach. We discussed some of the low-hanging items that we've moved forward with as a staff. We have the ability, which is up on the website right now, for people who are interested in following the business of any one of the major committees, standing committees, city council, and the committees televised on Channel 22 to sign up and receive, as soon as we post an agenda on the website, they will receive a notification in their email. That's set up. We kind of have that in beta right now. We think it's working. We know it's working. And we hope to build on things like that. You've also seen us try to increase the posting frequency on Facebook, and that is an effort to get people to have confidence in where they can find information more regularly. We see this also, I've been describing this as low-hanging, because there's a lot of work and quality that goes into the creation of the newsletter, and this is an opportunity to repeat that content already created. The executive assistant, who I want to recognize, Hannah Campbell, brings a lot of energy to this, and scheduling out the postings, and we look forward to seeing if that's helpful. Things are moving on in the background related to the library project. There is a very useful website that has been created by the library director and her team for updates there. We're in a bit of a quiet phase because we're waiting for the notification related to funding, but work is going on, and no significant issues there's no developments that people wouldn't be aware of. We're in a quiet phase there. And we're working on the capital improvement plan. Look forward to working that through with the planning board and you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right. That concludes agenda item 12. It brings us to 13, which is nominations, appointments, and elections. Under nominations, appointments, and elections, in accordance with Council Rule 17, appointments of following are up for just nomination this evening. Arthur H. Roseberry Yoder for appointment as an alternate member to the Zoning Board of Adjustments for a term of 3 years. The nominee will remain in nomination until our next regularly scheduled meeting. Brings us to item 14, which is items that have been laid upon the table. It's my understanding that ordinance 25-25, which is to amend Chapter 19 zoning ordinance Section 14 Historic District by adding exempt activities, is under this category. This had been referred to the Economic Development Committee. As we heard, Economic Development has dealt with this ordinance, is about ready, or is ready, to send it back to council. Because of the need for a public hearing on this, I'm going to ask that we have a public hearing scheduled at our next meeting for September 15th, at which time, if the council is ready, post-public hearing, we can remove it from the table, allow for our second reading of this ordinance, and then allow for any suggested amendments to be offered at that time.
Your Honor,
Yes,
just an inquiry here. We have not already had a public hearing on this
we have
ordinance?
not had one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it was held and referred to economic development after its first reading. We did not schedule a public hearing until it had gone through that process. All right, brings us to item 15, which is unfinished business. First up, we have ordinance 1-26. Sorry, I lost my place for a
May I
second.
back up to the prior? Just
Oh, yes,
further
of course.
inquiry
I
here.
apologize. I didn't mean to rush you.
I know that Councilor Goodwin reported out that the committee looks to perhaps make an amendment to take one of the sections. Is that not substantial enough that it would then require yet another public hearing? And would we be not better off just to dispose of this ordinance tonight and create a new one at some point in the future with the language regarding the map?
I hear what you're saying. If we are to even dispose of it, I assume you mean by vote it down, we would still need to have had a public hearing to even hear it, as far as I understand.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Thank you. Other questions on that before we move forward? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rush. Okay. So yes, back to item 15, unfinished business. We have ordinance 1-26, which is to amend chapter 19 zoning ordinance section 3, establishment of zoning districts, which again, if approved, would allow for the expertise of the planning department to be used for the determination of lots with no dimension on the maps, as well as allow owners in commercial industrial districts to use either zoning type within 100 feet of the line. Chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on ordinance 1-26. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 126, to amend Chapter 19 zoning ordinance, Section 3, establishment of zoning districts.
Thank you. Ordinance 1-26 have been read a first and now second time is open to further amendments. All right, no amendments being offered. I will look for a motion on ordinance 1-26. Councilor Witham?
Move for its adoption.
Councilor Witham moves to the adoption of ordinance 1-26, seconded by Councilor Parity Catanzaro. Motion for the council is on the adoption of ordinance 1-26. Discussion. Councilor Witham.
Yes, Your Honor, if there's no objection, I didn't know if either the city manager or city planner could kind of give a thumbnail sketch as to what this looks to do. I think most of us are aware, but I think it's helpful for the general public. We did have a comment earlier with regard to it, but if there was sort of a quick Reader's Digest version of what we're attempting to do here, that would be helpful.
I'll refer to the city manager.
I would recommend.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend we hear from Michelle Mears, Director of Planning and Equitable
Without
Development.
objection from the council, we'll call up Michelle Mears. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. So a quick synopsis of this is there are a number of lots that are split by two different zoning districts within the commercial industrial district of the city of Somersworth along Route 108. So this is giving us the opportunity for 100-foot back from where that lot is split to allow for the use that's allowed in the commercial industrial district.
Ms. Mears, is this in regard to newly passed state RSA?
No,
Is that
no.
the next one that I'm thinking then?
Yes,
Okay,
that's the next
my
one.
apologies. Go ahead, Councilor Witham.
Question, if I may. So, and again, this got vetted through planning board, and I've just lost track of it along the way, and I'm sure I've asked this question already, but I forgot. Apologies. So let's say that it's a commercial industrial use towards the Route 108 side, but the back part of this very deep lot is residential in nature. And they want to develop the whole lot as commercial industrial. Would they still be subject to pretty aggressive buffer yard requirements where there is a residential zone behind?
Yes, all the buffer yard requirements from the site plan regs still apply to this between the two different uses. And also, anything past that 100 feet would need a variance.
Thank you. And just a further question. I know this came up on the property on Route 108 that was originally sought and obtained site plan approval for a pickleball facility. They since disengaged from that idea and have now look to put in condos or townhomes in that property. So that's an example of one of those properties that goes to that, has a split piece of property between residential and commercial.
Yes, that is correct. And one other thing to note is the automobile uses would not be allowed to go past that 100 feet. We did change the zoning, I think it was in the springtime. Councilor Goodwin worked on that, so that would not be allowed.
Thank you. Answers my questions. Thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Mears while she's here? All right, I think you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other discussion on ordinance 1-26? Right, seeing none. If you're in favor of the adoption of ordinance 1-26, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 1-26 has been adopted. Thank you. Next up, the chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on ordinance 2-26, which is to amend chapter 19 zoning ordinance to add new section 34, home-based childcare, and revise table 4A3, accessory uses, section 25, definitions, and section 8, home occupation, which, if allowed, will allow all types of home-based care, family care, and group family care to be allowed as an accessory to the primary residential use in accordance with the newly passed state RSAs 672, 1VA, and 674, 16 VI, which serve to increase child care opportunities. City Clerk, you're recognized.
Ordinance number 226, to amend Chapter 19 zoning ordinance to add new section 34 home-based childcare and revise table 4.8.3 accessory uses, section 25 definitions, and section 8 home occupations.
Thank you. Ordinance 2-26, having read it first and now second time, is open to further amendment. No amendment being offered. I will look for a motion on ordinance 2-26. Councilor Parity Catanzaro.
Yes, I move for the adoption.
Thank you. Councilor Parity Catanzaro moves for the adoption of ordinance 2-26, seconded by Councilor Pepin. Motion for the council is on the adoption of ordinance 2-26. Discussion. Councilor Vincent.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question. If the state went and made these changes, correct, we don't have an option here, correct?
I mean, we
So
can always
basically, this
not
is just a-
rescind, but yeah,
but-
essentially state
Right.
law would
And
supersede.
one other question, if I may follow up. So the way I read this and understand it is, maybe some of you remember Little Folks, which was on Lilnor Avenue in, Councilor Witham went there, okay. So that was in a residential neighborhood. Is this what this is going to happen again? Is this how this is going to change this again? Because it went away from that because they didn't want to have that in a we're going to go back to this, correct?
I am not equipped to answer that question. I will defer to the city manager, who hopefully is more equipped than I.
I think the general context, Counselor, is to promote greater access to childcare generally. And I would expect, though I didn't follow precisely the process here in Somersworth, that there are protections and thresholds in place related to the number of students, et cetera, that are designed for managing impacts in these residential areas. But the intent is to expand the use.
And if I may, and I just want to make it clear that I'm not against this. I'm actually for this. I will be voting in favor of this. I just wanted to have the knowledge. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Other discussion, Councilor Witham?
Thank you. We did discuss this at the planning board, and I had some questions. You're right, I was a product of the Little Folks Child Care Center on Lilnor Avenue way back. And the intent of this is certainly one that is very positive. Although I clearly don't like the state telling us what we should do with regard to zoning, this one, at least in concept, makes some sense. What I did ask at the planning board level is there any oversight at the local level and things like traffic and parking and things of that nature? And the answer to that is no. which is my one hesitation with this. I think there should be some level of oversight. I get that we're sort of bound by what the state is telling us here. And imagine for a second, those of you that remember Little Folks, on a street that wasn't as well suited as perhaps Lilnor Avenue is to accommodate traffic flow of cars and pick up and drop off. It could get messy, and those concerns are going to get brought to our attention. We're going to, bring it through Traffic Safety Committee, and the beat goes on, right? So the intent here is good, but I think the state fell a little short in terms of really allowing us any level of oversight to deal with some of those matters. But to the point Councilor Vincent made, we're sort of held hostage here.
Thank you. Other discussion? All right, seeing none. If you are in favor of adopting ordinance 2-26, you'll state by saying yes. If you are not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes, with a small y in italicized print, please.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Same vote as Councilor Whittam.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Michaud.
Yes.
Right, ordinance 2-26 passes with a small p. All right, brings us to our resolutions. Chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on resolution 8-26, which is to authorize the city manager to contract with Legion's Fire and Rescue for the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer 100-foot rear mount platform aerial apparatus for the fire department, which, if approved, would eventually allow for the purchase of this platform truck at a cost of $2,301,005, though it does not make that purchase happen at this time. I want to clarify that. City Clerk, will you please read for a second time?
Resolution number 826, to authorize the city manager to contract with Allegiance Fire and Rescue of Walpole, Massachusetts for the purchase of a Pierce Enforcer 100-foot rear mount platform aerial apparatus for the fire department.
Thank you. Resolution 8-26, having read a first and second time, is now open to further amendment. No amendment being offered. I'll look for a motion on resolution 8-26. Councilor Gibson.
I move that we accept resolution 8-26.
Thank you. Councilor Gibson moves for the adoption of resolution 8-26, seconded by Councilor Pepin. Motion for the council is on the adoption of resolution 8-26. Discussion. Councilor Witham and then Gibson.
Yes. Your Honor said, we're not making the purchase. We're entering into a purchase agreement.
Yes, I
We are
should have
not
said that.
establishing the funding mechanism for this just yet. So slight clarification
Yes.
to that. Our current aerial apparatus is, by the time we would take delivery of this truck, it'll be knocking on the door to 25 years. And in fire apparatus terms, that's old. There is still some value resale of our current aerial apparatus, although that is minimal because of its age, right? It's just a simple fact of the matter. The fire department, after I'm sure much research, has decided to move from a traditional aerial apparatus, which is just a ladder, to this aerial platform configuration, which, if you will, has a bucket on the end. There are several advantages of that, many advantages to that, that the fire department has determined are in the best interest of our community here. And I would offer important to our staffing levels. A platform can operate with one person, whereas an aerial needs 2, 3 to operate and do the same jobs. So I support the fire department's recommendation here. There has been some discussion in the community about the cost of a platform versus an aerial ladder. There is a difference, but that difference is not much. I've done some research on that, and it's somewhere around 7 or 8% more to purchase a platform versus a traditional aerial. Fact of the matter is, you're buying the same truck, the same pump, a bit of a heftier ladder, and you're putting the basket on the end. That's, in essence, the difference here. So that's a small amount of money for substantially greater advantages with this piece of equipment. I know that the fire department solicited bids. We saw all that material. There were 3 bids received. The Pierce apparatus was somewhere in the middle. We have a Pierce pumper right now. I think we've always favored fleet consistency here in the city, so this helps us with that notion versus adding yet another different truck to the mix. Neither of the other 2 vendors that submitted a bid do we have their equipment in the city currently. So we do have Pierce, so I think that consistency of fleet makes a lot of sense, and that was articulated by the city manager in his report this evening as well. Again, I fully support this. I applaud the work of the fire department, Chief Moore, and importantly his apparatus committee, which poured over the details of the bids, did an analysis, and brought forward this recommendation before us here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, you're next.
Yeah, my question would basically be, is it possible to have a prepayment, bond it, and prepay towards the unit, because you're talking, what, 2 to 3 years down the road for completion?
City manager.
So there are a variety of contract terms that were presented at finance that shared the various options in value associated with prepaying. Believe it or not, there's a discount. It's not terribly good to pay 100% right now, but that we as a staff didn't recommend that, and I think the finance committee agreed. There are other prepayment variations that were on offer, but the one that manages the risk while achieves the value that we assessed is the one that we've described here, which is prepay 1 year out as opposed to earlier than that.
Okay, thank you.
You, Councillor Vincent, you're recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. $2.3 million is a heck of a lot of money. However, what do you do? We've had a piece of apparatus that I worked with years ago, and it's aging. And to keep a piece of apparatus, you can see what just happened. We're putting thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in to repair it. I just wish it would have came prior to that repair so we could have saved that money, but it didn't. Then I say to myself, okay, so we're getting a platform. A platform, my God, a platform. Why can't we just go with a stick like we used to have? However, the difference in cost is not that much more. $300,000 or $400,000, and you have such a better piece of equipment with a platform. People that don't know what a platform is firefighters can stand up on it. So if they make a rescue from heights or from an area that is people need to get onto this platform, they can actually walk onto it. If you had an 80-year-old woman and you had 2 firefighters or a firefighter go up the ladder, there's only a ladder there. Try putting elderly people on that. It's almost impossible. I had a great talk with the fire chief today about it, and because we're limited on the amount of personnel on staff, if that truck, when that truck rolls out, it can make a rescue with minimal people. One life saved. You can't put a price on it sometimes. However, I'm going to vote for this tonight, but I really want to emphasize that I don't want this whole prepay, meaning last meeting I kind of came up with the idea that maybe we should take some money ahead of time to get ready for this, which the city manager has moved on, which I think has a really positive effect for my vote. And I'm going to be supporting this. I think it's better to prepay, even though we don't have it, because it kind of lessens the burden, so to speak. I know it's still the same amount of 2.3 million, but a little at a time is gentler and easier, I think, on us. I just hope that we can stay within our means. And thank you. I'll be voting for this.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councillor Pepin?
Yes, thank you. I'll be voting in favor of this. I come back from way, way back that this is probably the 5th ladder truck I've seen in the community. I know the city bought a secondhand one time before, which was a tiller, which was a nightmare in the city to drive and to operate. In fact, it almost passed me at the back end one time because the pin come unlocked in it. So sometimes buying secondhand apparatus is not good. We always try to look ahead in the future, and all you have to do is just look on Elm Street of the building up there. They're getting taller and taller. We have less land, so the buildings are starting to get taller in our community. We try to plan for the future, and I think the fire department did an excellent job in doing the planning and inspecting out for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Witham?
Yeah, just real quick, and I know we're not talking funding tonight necessarily, but it's part of this conversation. And although the city manager doesn't recommend prepayment until the year before, I think the strategy that he outlined in his memo and that he articulated in his report is for us to set aside money over the next couple of fiscal years so that we have a bigger down payment at the time that would lessen the burden of the amount that we would have to finance. So difference between down payment and prepayment is very different. And they're both being used here. So I just want to make sure we're clear on what that direction could potentially look like in the future.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councillor Parity Catanzaro?
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor of this. I cannot put into words how much better a platform sounds to me than a ladder. Not to brag, I was on a ladder almost 2 stories high over the weekend, and it was terrifying. And just the thought of having a bucket truck over a ladder, especially if you're, trying to rescue people, is just an absolute no-brainer. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you. Other discussion? All right, I have one final question, and then we'll move on to our vote. I just want to verify, by entering into this purchase agreement, we are locked into the costs. There will be no fear of price escalation over the next 2 years?
No.
Interesting.
That is a part of the discussion that we had, a substantial portion of the discussion we had at both committees, as well as perhaps first reading. And I alluded to just the concept of the difficulty about being a municipality in this position, buying a large ticket fire apparatus these days. The number of manufacturers has dwindled. There's been consolidation. So there's an element of imbalance in the market with that factor. There's another element of uncertainty when it comes to macroeconomic conditions and policies related to trade that could affect the price of key materials in this product. What the contract has is limitations that are tied to indexes of what the increase could be. Another value to the city of this prepayment is we are lessening the amount of time that the environment could be volatile and work against us. If you will, we're taking out a year of that risk with the prepay of the 1 year. But that is a very important thing to be aware of that is featured in the additional materials hyperlinked in my report, which reminds us, and I'm glad you brought it up, Mr. Mayor, because this is not a comfortable position to be in, to be signing a purchase agreement for a piece of equipment that you do not ultimately know how much it will cost. And but there are protections in place that are standard in these types of transactions. that are standard in these types of transactions now. And we are aware of at least one other community that has used this risk mitigation strategy to deal with the environment that we're in.
Appreciate that. At what point will we have, in this process, will we have a final understanding of cost, I guess?
A year before we receive the material, so approximately 2 years.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, any final discussion? Okay, thank you. If you're in favor of the adoption of Resolution 8-26, you'll state by saying yes. If you are not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Peppin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 8-26 has been adopted. Next up, the chair recognizes the clerk for a second reading on Resolution 10-26, which is to authorize the city manager to contract with Wright Pierce Engineers of Portsmouth, New Hampshire for final engineering design services for the Somersworth Water Treatment Facilities improvements, which, if approved, would allow the city to contract with Wright Pierce for an amount not to exceed $399,000. City Clerk.
Resolution number 1026, to authorize the city manager to contract with Wright Pierce Engineers of Portsmouth, New Hampshire for final engineering design services for the Somersworth Water Treatment Facility improvements.
Thank you. Resolution 10-26, having been read a first and second time, is now open to further amendment. No amendment being offered. I'll look for a motion on Resolution 10-26. Councilor Witham?
I'll move for its adoption.
Councilor Witham moves for the adoption of Resolution 10-26, seconded by Councilor Vincent. Motion before the council is on the adoption of Resolution 10-26. Discussion. Seeing none, if you're in favor of the adoption of Resolution 10-26, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
All right, Resolution 10-26 has been adopted. This brings us to item 16 on our agenda, which is new business. We have only items under other, and under other we have 2 items. First up is we have a vote to set the polling hours for the November 4th, 2025 municipal elections. What are the wishes of the council? Councilor Goodwin.
I would like to make a motion to set the hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7.
I'll
Great.
second that.
We have a motion by Councilor Goodwin to set the polling hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., seconded by Councilor Vincent. Motion for the council is to set them from 7 to 7 for the November 4th, 2025 municipal election discussion. That was easy. All right. If you're in favor of the polling hours being set for the November 4th, 2025 municipal election being set from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Micho.
Yes.
Witham.
Yes.
All right. Polling hours have been set. Thanks. That was great. All right. Next up, under other, we have a request from Tri-City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, which is on 192 Route 108, to support the mid-block crossing along Route 108. As was stated by the city manager in his manager's report, the condition of the traffic safety committee, the conditions that they discussed at the traffic safety committee in relation to this crosswalk request are as follows. It's that all costs associated with the application to the state be borne by Tri-City Dodge, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, including fees, permits, permit fees, and engineering. It's also that all costs associated with construction be borne by Tri-City Dodge, that the Dodge agrees to maintain infrastructure, and that Dodge agrees to grant a performance bond to the city in favor of repair and infrastructure, and that at any time through our city manager, the city may choose not to move forward with the application if the conditions placed on the city by the state are not consistent with the conditions or the opinion of the manager is essentially burdensome to the city. So with those laid out and what we've heard, what are the wishes of the council? Councilor Vincent?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that that we move to let the city manager move forward with this to request from the state of New Hampshire in the following of what you said.
Mhm. Would you like to enter into a memorandum of understanding?
Yes, I'd like to enter into a memorandum of understanding. Now that I understand, thank you.
Second.
You're welcome. Councilor Vincent moves to enter into the memorandum of understanding addressing the conditions outlined that just before us tonight, seconded by Councilor Gibson, I think, got it. Motion for the council is to support this request, again, entering into the MOU with the 5 conditions outlined, as outlined by the manager and Traffic Safety Commission. Discussion. Councilor Gibson.
Yeah, I guess this would be addressed to the city manager. Given the volatility in the car business, would this agreement automatically transfer to any subsequent ownership group?
Manager Moore.
That's a very good question. The initial agreement is to get the approval from the state of New Hampshire to move forward and construct. The agreements going forward, I envision to be between the project proponent and the city. The project proponent, as you're pointing out, could sell. And so we could look at that issue of some sort of instrument that is recorded that causes the obligation to carry on to successors and assigns. The discussion we've had at Traffic and Safety was the maintenance, and we're talking about shoveling and other things that would be burdensome for the city at this time, would be required of the property owner. But my intent would be until such time as we accept the Route 108 complete streets improvements where there are sidewalks throughout, and we have that obligation already. So the thinking about the future from the staff perspective is that we hope to have the opportunity to maintain a more robust pedestrian infrastructure on Route 108, and at which time it would become unnecessary for the care for this to fall to anyone else, because we will be accepting it for the entire corridor.
Translate, please. We would eventually accept responsibility for this?
My understanding with these types of improvements on state property is that they do not, on the state roadways, is they do not maintain the sidewalks or flashing beacons that are associated with these improvements. They're turned over to the municipalities.
Councilor Gibson, you're so recognized.
Okay, I would have a severe problem with that because, no offense to anybody or business, making a either poor business decision and not realizing they were going to have enough space to fully operate their business, therefore creating the situation that required this crosswalk, or them just changing their mind and deciding that they wanted to do this. That the responsibility for this would fall eventually on this municipality, I cannot agree with.
I think the manager's comments were saying that this would be after, correct me if I'm wrong, after the state does the total redo of 108. So it would be the business's responsibility until that point. The state would then go through, do the 108 corridor over as is requested by the city and as is planned. And then as is, expected, once that a corridor has been redone, all the new updates from the state would then become our responsibility. His hope is that this crosswalk would be
that's exactly
paired
what I had
into-
stated.
Correct. Okay. I want to make sure I understand, I guess. And I hope that I am understanding it correctly.
What did the last set of lights cost the city? About $20,000 per unit, if I'm correct?
For the flashing crosswalk
No,
lights?
well, Yeah, I think that would,
I don't remember off the top of my head.
okay, but just whatever. At some point, all this infrastructure is going to have to be updated and maintained. So we're basically going to be accepting responsibility for a poor business decision by this entity, if that's the way this is going to go. So I repeat, I would not vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Councilor Vincent, and with
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say that once the purchase by the Tri-City Dodge has made that commitment, and then they're maintaining it, and say they go out of business, there's nothing that says the city doesn't have to maintain that. It could be taken down. The initial purchase is what's important from Tri-City Dodge, which would be they paid for all the infrastructure to be done. And then all of a sudden, if they vanish or evaporate, the city doesn't have to maintain that. They could take it down. They could keep it if they want. I don't think it's a burden, to be honest with you.
thank you. We got Councilor Witham, then Councilor Perry Catanzaro.
Yes, thank you. I view this as being business-friendly, with very little risk to the city. Never say no risk, but very little risk to the city. It has been known in these chambers for a long time now that part of the State of New Hampshire Route 108 Complete Streets Upgrade, whenever that takes place, that sidewalk infrastructure to support pedestrians was going to be part of that, but that sidewalk infrastructure to support pedestrians would be the responsibility of the city. We've talked ad nauseum with Public Works that when that time comes, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whenever that is, that we'll need to add another sidewalk tractor to our fleet to maintain that sidewalk. The ones we have now would not be able to keep up with that added demand. A cost that I think, at least through what we've talked about so far, the city is inclined to deal with because we see the value in supporting that pedestrian-friendly community. Pedestrian crosswalk mid-block requires more than just a crosswalk, as the city manager articulated. It requires this added infrastructure, not a complete traffic signal, but maybe a traffic hawk, which we don't have any in the community. Maybe it's something as simple as what we just installed downtown. I'm thinking it's going to need to be a bit more robust than that. Maybe there's a pedestrian refuge island in the middle of Route 108. I'm not sure what the state will require, but it's going to be substantial. That would then, at some point in time, because it's pedestrian infrastructure, if we take over the complete streets pedestrian infrastructure from one end to the other, this would be absorbed into that. I think our risk is de minimis. There might be, replacement of bulbs, repair of a signal head on occasion, but I think that risk is low. And like Councilor Vincent stated, if the business were to go out and we don't need it anymore, it gets taken down. And a good example of that, on High Street, we had a signal in front of the old AMR building that they paid to put in, and when that business went away, it's now been taken down. So, yeah, I see this as very little risk and being very business-friendly to the community.
Thank you. Councilor Perry Catanzaro.
Yeah, I agree with a lot that has been said regarding business friendliness. I also think it's enhancing pedestrian friendliness on that street, which the upgrades are slated to do. I think it's a crosswalk that would benefit not just this business, but a lot of people who go up and down that corridor. It may take the place of one that was already planned for, if not this exact location, perhaps something on the same block. One could argue it would cost more effort for us to avoid paving this one or plowing this one section of the sidewalk. We're going to be going down the sidewalk anyway, down the street anyway. And I think Councilor Witham outlined a few of the other pretty minor repairs to that, but I would see this as getting a benefit in that we are getting some of this cost paid upfront to something that we would likely do anyway and would be a benefit to the city and upkeep of which is right in line with what we'd be doing on that corridor anyway.
Thank you. Other discussion? Councilor Cameron?
Yeah, I would just add, I will be voting in favor of this, not just from the business aspect of it, but if anybody's been up and down that corridor many times, like we all have, you see the salespeople crossing the street, and it's very dangerous over there. So just from the safety aspect of this, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I will be voting for it.
Thank you. Other discussion? Yes, Councilor Michoud?
Thank you, Your Honor. The question I get is, I'm going to support this, but right now it looks like we're requesting the state to put the crosswalk there, correct? And we put in the request. Can the state still turn around and say no?
City Manager?
Absolutely.
So I don't see what the argument is here. Let's go forward and see what the state says, and let's be business friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion? All right, seeing none. If you're in favor of the motion, you'll state by saying yes. If you're not, you'll state by saying no. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Counselor Vincent.
Yes.
Gibson.
No.
Parity Catanzaro.
Yes.
Michaud.
Yes.
Witham.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
Pepin.
Yes.
All right, the motion and request is supported. Thank you. All right, that brings us to item 17, which is comments by visitors. Somersworth City Council and Mayor's Office welcome all visitors and encourage you to voice your opinions and views at council meetings. In accordance with Council Rule 7-C, a time limit of 5 minutes per person shall be in effect unless the council wishes to suspend the rules. Speakers shall not enter into debate with any person, the mayor, council member, city manager, or department heads. Is there anyone who wishes to speak this evening? Yes, again, thank you. If you could state your name and ward in which you live.
Richard Brooks, Ward 1, 18 Linden Street. I just wanted to say thank you for getting the alerts up and working. I did not realize that until just now, and I've already signed up. So I hope others will see that as well. As you know, a little over a year and a half ago, I presented a petition looking for just that. So thank you very much for doing so, and especially the councilors that helped support that and made it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak this evening? All right, we'll move on to item 18, which is closing comments by councilors. Councilor Pepin, you are up first, my friend.
I have nothing this evening.
All right, thank you. Councilor Vincent.
I have nothing.
Councilor Gibson.
Nothing that directly affects the city, but I don't know how many people have been following the news, but there was a major traffic accident on 95 South this weekend. And I just missed it. What is truly scary to me, and I don't know what the answer is, but it seems like stupid has become contagious in this country, particularly when it comes to the way people drive and the way pedestrians treat safety. And I'm not really against the crosswalk in itself. I just felt that it should be, we should not be taking on the burden at some future point, possibly. I know nobody ever knows the future. But a business decision that was made and then created a situation that's coming back onto us. Yes, if they pay for the whole thing, I can live with that. But I just felt the point should be brought up. Business friendly is one thing, but we've seen too many instances of this city where basically the city, shall we say, bails out businesses by the way they conduct, by the way we conduct decisions on this council. I won't go into history, but I've seen a few examples that are really bad. But back to my main point, that was kind of a roundabout. I drive part-time for Uber, and it is really scary out there. I don't know what the answer is, that maybe we need to incorporate into our schools a driver education and pedestrian education program. But something needs to start very soon, or we're just going to see more of what happened this weekend. When I went past that accident, I figured there were going to be dead bodies there. Fortunately, at this point, it seems like there have been no fatalities as a result of that, and there were, I believe, 6 people involved. Fortunately, the state is upgrading safety on that section of the highway. They're putting in dividers from the Mass border all the way up to just short of the Maine border. So hopefully, because what caused this accident was the car that was most severely damaged was pushed into the median and across into the southbound lane by another car striking it in the rear. And so I think we seriously need to look at some kind of education program. And again, I'm not trying to drop stuff on the police department, because maybe we need to spend the money to increase funding for our parking enforcement officer and widen his responsibilities a little bit. Because another thing, I've been walking out of City Hall, and twice I've almost been run down by bicycles on the sidewalk as I came out the door. So I don't know what the answer is to that, but maybe our traffic city committee should maybe think about doing something to get this sort of thing under control. Bicycles, electric scooters, electric bikes have no regard for the rules of the road. We're seeing this in this city. I came close to having an electric bike at Walmart end up on the hood of my car because they ran a red light crossing on High Street. So that's my soapbox for the evening.
Thank you. Next up is Councilor Parity Catanzaro.
No comments this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Michoud.
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Councilor Witham.
Nothing tonight?
All right. Councilor Goodwin.
Yes, thank you. A couple of quick comments. One is I'm delighted to see the new crosswalk installed at the intersection of Constitutional Way and High Street with the sidewalk pedestrian beacons. It's fantastic. I have already utilized it, and I'm sure I will utilize it plenty more. And I hope that we can continue sort of these types of traffic calming and pedestrian improvements in the downtown, particularly on High Street, just to make sure that people feel safe in the downtown and crossing the street with confidence. So I think that was a really great step in the right direction. I also wanted to make a quick announcement in light of the November 4th municipal elections that I will not be seeking re-election. So for those interested, there will be an open at-large seat. It's been a pleasure serving, but I'd rather have a deadline than an extension. So thanks.
We will miss you. Thank you. Councilor Cameron.
Thank you, Your Honor. My next Don't Trash Somersworth is going to be on September 20th. We're going to be doing Commercial Drive and Willand again. And I am in the process of trying to do a special cleanup on the 27th. And I may have to have special waivers for people for that one. Just putting that out there, that if we can go through with this, which I hope we can, you may have to sign a different waiver for that special event only. It's going to be from 9 to 10, and I'll just keep you posted in the next couple of weeks on that. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Brings us to item 19, which is future agenda items. Are there any requested future agenda items from folks? Okay, none. I don't have any on my list. Oh, we got one. Look at that.
Speaking of deadlines, there was a presentation that I put together for the Mayor's Housing Task Force some time ago, and it was my intention to present that to council and or planning board in a joint workshop at some point, and now that the new manager's here, it's definitely something I would like to share
I agree.
with him. So tentatively getting that out there, I'd love to be able to share that with a broader group of people, knowing that we have a number of upcoming housing initiatives and zoning changes that I think that may help inform.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Let's put our heads together and find a time and date that we could do a workshop. How's that sound?
Awesome.
All right, thank you. Other items? Okay. Brings us to Adam Tony. We don't have anything there. Last is adjournment. Councillor Vincent moves the council stand in adjournment until our next regular scheduled meeting, seconded by Councillor Gibson. Question for the council is adjournment. If you're in favor, you'll say by saying aye. If you're opposed, you'll say by saying nay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, council is adjourned. Thank you.
Constituent.